Well, another point that was I'd love to talk a point. Another topic I'd love to talk to you about is ye old CM Punk. His return has.
That's why I wanted to. That's why I wanted to be here and everywhere this week, because, like, I want to talk about it this week. Like, as I said at the top of the show, it's like a lot of this is sometimes difficult to do. Like when we started Dirty Sheets, like it was back in 2014. So, you know, it wasn't a case of like I was getting there. Like some weeks wrestling was shit, and some weeks like and some weeks some stuff was happening, and it was all good. But you know, the good has been like few and far between, and sometimes like me and Cav have just forced ourselves to do our show because a lot of people hate us and they want us to go away. Like they want, like these marks like want me to like go away. They want their news from people that are like them. So they actually, I just got this theory that they want their news from neckbeards and fatties and smellies and old people and baldies. Like they want their news from. They don't want their news from me. That their theory is that, you know, this guy's already, I think, you know, already gone and done the things that I've done. So like, why should I come into their wrestling business, especially if I'm not watching everything WWE do? If I'm not watching 205 Live and AEW Dark and Japanese wrestling, and I'm not attending independent shows, like I don't deserve to have this information. Well, I'm sorry, like the information is there because like as I explained, I have relationships with these wrestlers on a different level. I don't talk to wrestlers like a mark, and that's not a relationship I have. And with this news, I can just keep it under my hat and win money with it, or do or talk or whatever. Like, but the thing is that for me, it's just fun to like just embarrass these guys that take themselves so seriously. Like, I don't think there's any industry, like if you're looking at even the NFL now, or when you go back to the NFL draft and there's loads of rumors about who's going to go where, or at the moment we're in the football season where, you know, there's loads of stuff about who's going to sign where. The transfer window closes in a week and a half. Just a week now as we're doing this show. Wrestling is like that every single day. 365 days a year, these guys are on the dirt sheets checking it. There's nothing like that at all. So to be able to like embarrass these people that they hold in like high esteem is just fun for me. But yeah, this week with the CM Punk thing, I wanted to speak about it. It was an enjoyable thing to watch. Less enjoyable. The more time you spend on social media and seeing these shitbags like dissecting it, like the less fun it becomes. If it had just happened as an independent event that I watched with me and my son and really enjoyed like the hell out of, and waited a long time for and wanted it to happen, then I would have enjoyed it more. As we get down to Wednesday and I've seen some reaction, for me it's a little bit like bittersweet because I've gone in there and had these arguments and these battles with these idiots that were just turning around and going, oh, AEW did a 1.3, what a flop that the show is, and all this kind of stuff, and just, you know, and mocking Dave Meltzer for his like demo breakdowns and all this kind of shit. Like, you know, once you've, I mean, and I'm not even, and I'm not an AEW fan. Like me and my guys on my podcast, like we pride ourselves in terms of like being able to do a show where it's like, one thing I don't like about Russo is that, and I even say this to him straight up, everything, he hates WWE and he will hate anything that happens. Like he's you know, he'll already tell you that something's going to be shit and he doesn't watch SmackDown and he refuses to believe that it's a good show. Like I have an issue with that in terms of he's completely cut off to it being good. Like he's covering it because he's Vince Russo and he knows that he can make money from people hearing his opinion. But I already know what his opinion is going to be. I feel like him and Cornette were guilty of the same things in terms of, with Cornette, like, you know, you pull back the string in the back of his head and he'll come out and he'll say the things that you want him to say. Like he'll say things about Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and he'll say like, oh, how heels were heels and how they used to get chased to their cars back in the day. Like, you know, that's Jim Cornette. And with Russo, it's like, now it's almost like I tell him straight up as well. This isn't like me talking about someone behind their back because that's not what I do. Like, I feel like he's ready to just hate everything before it even happens. Like, he was telling me how irrelevant this CM Punk thing would be and how it would do nothing before it happened. So we don't do that. Like, we're not the ones that are ready to hate everything. We're not the ones that love everything. We're not AEW sympathizers or anything like that at all. In fact, from the minute that CM Punk walked out on Rampage, AEW blew the opportunity to maintain that audience and show them and show the new fans what else they had to offer by the fact that they did not book that last 40 minutes very well, I didn't think. So that's immediately me not sympathizing. But that's the thing. On our shows, we always turn around and went, like, the shit we say is shit. And the good we say is good. If we think it's good, we say it's good. We found a lot of good in SmackDown in the last 12 months, and we've said it. I don't think anybody's found good in Raw, even if they've tried to. So with this thing that happened with CM Punk, I legitimately thought it was the best thing that we'd seen in years. And this was so difficult to handle correctly. You could only fuck it up. Like, it was always going to be like something that could have been better in people's heads. Like, when you're imagining like the Punk comeback and where it happens and the crowd response and what he says and how to make it make sense, like, it was all done correctly. I don't know what you felt about it, but I felt it was every single part of it was done correctly. You couldn't have fantasized it coming off any better. And for me, that was the key thing as a fan of Punk's as well. So,
well, what are you hearing about the backstage reaction in WWE to it?
What did you think of it, first of all?
I honestly haven't seen it. I watched the entrance because I heard about the pop. And I do love that song, Cult of Personality. But the rest of it I didn't watch because because I was out at the weekend and I thought, fuck it, I'll get to it, and I didn't see it. But the reaction online is the thing that's been catching my beautiful blue eyes.
Well, you should, because for me, it's the loudest pop in wrestling in terms of. And I want to clarify that before people start to give me other examples. Sustained pop, which is only comparable to. I've never seen anybody do that for that length of time, other than the Canadian Stampede in '97, where the Hart Foundation went up against the Americans in Austin's team at the Canadian Stampede in July '97, which we've just covered on Podcast on a Pole. So. That's the equal in terms of the sustained pop. And, you know, I understand Edge came out there, had a big pop. I understand, like, you go back to the Attitude Era, there's loads of pops, like Mick Foley, Mankind winning the title. But nothing was like this in terms of being that loud for such a sustained period for the full 15 minutes. It is, and to happen in 2021, where you think you've seen everything and, all the best stuff has happened in the Attitude Era, all the loudest stuff and the most energetic fans were always in the 90s, which is what we always say, in that late 90s era. To get this in 2021 is pretty crazy. And I don't think we'll see a massive drop-off next time he's in Chicago or even tonight on Dynamite. So I do think this acquisition will work out for them. CM Punk segments will work out for them. I think the DVR numbers will be good for people wanting to see what CM Punk does. I think the social media interaction will maintain solid. The problem they're going to have is the crap that they book around it, and that's what I'm concerned about. And when I say concerned, I mean that in a sense of, if this show gets better and if this show starts to have a competitive rating, then WWE might get better. And Monday Night Raw, which I have to watch for my shows, won't be some shit that I need to suffer through as much if AEW is better. But I don't know. For me, it's still very much a company for marks, and it's too much booked for Dave Meltzer. It's too social justice, like getting rid of that Max Caster guy because he cut a promo about PCR tests and things. I don't agree with that. Like, you're not going to draw back in those casuals if you're so social justice. I'm fucking sick of like social justice. I'm sick of everybody being such a fucking pussy. Like, if you want to get ahead, like, you need to realize that these pussies that are offended by everything, they're not going to stop watching. Like, they don't have lives, and their viewership is safe. Like, the thing is that, you now need to, you have the SJW pussies on board. They're watching. They're hooked in. So now go and get the other people. Like, you really want to run a legitimate business, take some risks, and then you can compete.
Is anyone backstage in WWE, do they see the CM Punk stuff as a threat, or are they just chugging along with the next Goldberg Classic?
Yeah, sorry, apologies. I did hear that question, but I just
sorry.
To go back to a story that I broke with Vince on Vince's show. Fox got CM Punk to fix this relationship, which WWE said they were open to. The company line was, we're here to like do business. We're here to like make money. So they did not object to Fox putting CM Punk back on television. Obviously, then very soon after that, we had the pandemic. But, once conversations began with Fox and Punk, and before, they ever got WWE to the table, he said that, Tony Khan has like reached out to me and like, there's a monetary figure on the table. Once Fox said that WWE needed to match it because they wanted CM Punk on television and that he was really willing to wrestle, WWE responded during this time by coming up with a whole load of data for Fox to indicate that CM Punk wasn't a star at the level of Edge and John Cena. Now, I know that the metrics that WWE used to do this involved the entire time CM Punk was there. Now, if you're actually a fan, you know that CM Punk wasn't pushed in 2007 or 2005 or 2006. He wasn't pushed during this time. He was pushed in 2011, where he said he was going to leave after the pipe bomb promo. When CM Punk cut the pipe bomb promo, a few months after that, with a fraction of the merchandise, he knocked John Cena off the top for the first time in 6 years, where Cena was doing merchandise sales that were comparable to Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan. So CM Punk was doing merchandise that was bigger than that with very few merchandise items. I'm talking about like some wristbands, caps, and a couple of T-shirts. Like, he was absolutely fucking killing it in 2011. WWE didn't mention this to Fox. WWE gave an overview about how CM Punk wasn't a needle mover. This is a very important term because it's the company line that has been explained to the company people. And this is the kind of bullshit that Roman Reigns is coming out this week. It's this nonsensical company speak that they gave to Fox, and then Fox didn't buy into it, by the way, because they then turn around and said, whatever you think his valuation is, we will match it. We will pay the rest of the money to equal the offer of AEW. So when it came down to WWE explaining, we pay Edge $3 million a year because he does this, that, and the other, and we're paying John Cena $3 million to come in for 1 month because he does this, that, and the other, right? So when CM Punk wanted his $3 million and WWE gave all the reasons not to do it, Fox then came in and said that we would cover half of the money, which is what WWE were saying that they were short by. They said that he's half the star that Edges, and they also said that his UFC, in their opinions, the UFC losses had completely diminished his valuation. So Fox were not buying into any of this, and when it came down to Fox, sort of watering down that excuse and giving WWE no out by saying, look, whatever you think, we'll take that on board. We still want him. We'll pay the rest of the money. This is when, in the final few weeks before the AEW deal was done, where they turned around to him and said, okay, there's another problem. He is not liked in this locker room. He is not wanted in the locker room. A lot of us remember working with him before. He's moody. He's difficult to work with. He's toxic. We actually don't want him back in any situation at all. At which point, Fox were absolutely livid. Now, this relationship is very strained anyway, due to a number of things that happened in the past in terms of Brock Lesnar moving over to Raw. 1 month after he was supposed to be on Fox, them never having Becky Lynch, signing the Peacock deal, which ended all future future expansion with Fox, plus the fact that WWE are openly involved with talking to streaming networks about the future of SmackDown once the Fox deal expires. So they know that streaming networks like Amazon Prime and Apple are desperate for live content to put themselves on the map. Apple are desperate to get into this game. They will make WWE a monster offer to take SmackDown onto a streaming platform. So Fox are not happy about this. So what you've seen very, very predictably is Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar, the two people that they wanted in the first place, the two people that they were massively high on, ended up on SmackDown to make sure that relationship doesn't completely go down the toilet. They're also going to get The Rock as well later on down the line, so towards the start of next year. So they're doing a job in fixing that relationship because Fox will live it. As for guys in the back, I think there is a little bit of an element of he was moody and we don't necessarily want him back here. But there's also an element of hopefully this works, because from the guys I've spoke to, and one of them is Drew, and I don't mind saying that because he just said he gave the same sort of comments, similar comments today, where he said it was good for wrestling. And his private views are it's good for wrestling because I think the feeling backstage is that it's a kick up the arse in terms of it will elevate everybody creatively. Now, this is not the dirt sheet answer or the company spin. This is the real opinion. People genuinely think that this might kick them up the arse and they want it to work. WWE employees want this company to thrive because it continually gives them two places to work, even though AEW is getting super full right now. I don't know how they can even fit more people in and what they'll do with them, because not everybody can be a champion. Everybody's talking this week about, Adam Cole has to go to AEW because Vince McMahon wouldn't use Adam Cole properly. Look what he's done to all the NXT guys. Well, how many people can go to AEW and have that little graphic up where they go, this guy is 41 and 0, and he's like this, and even guys with a few losses, Ambrose is there. He's 35 and 2 or something like that. It's gonna be so difficult to keep that going and to satisfy everybody in terms of keeping Malachi back unbeaten and keeping the Miro as the North what is their belt, the TNT champion, and keeping him undefeated and it's difficult. You can't sign everybody. Eventually, people are going to have to end up being in the same spot that they were in WWE. Going from WWE to AEW isn't automatically going to be a promotion anymore at some point. So, but I still think they're supportive of what they're doing. They want to see some competition between the two, and so do I. I hope Dynamite does as well as it possibly can tonight.
But that's actually another topic I'd love to ask you about, because of course CM Punk joined AEW to give the Rampage this enormous, almost double the rating of what they got the week before. But the question I would have is, and you kind of hinted at it there, within the locker room, this is another top guy coming in, getting another giant salary. And what that means is it also means he's taking a main spot on the card, and it's another ex-WWE name. And there's rumors, and this is mostly just Mark's talking and stuff, but apparently people like MJF aren't happy with it. And what's the guy? Andrade? Yeah, Andrade. He's also in AAA. Isn't happy about the fact that he came in, then Malachi Black came in the next week. Now fucking Punk. Now Daniel Bryan. What's his name? Bray Wyatt's coming too. So it's like going to Extravision, if you remember those things. Renting out 5 films for 24-hour rental. It's you're not going to be able to watch it all. Something's going to get left off, and it's not everyone's going to work out. So within the AEW locker room, what is the general vibe to the signing of Phillip Brooks?
I don't think there's any truth to most of that, because I think everybody's coming in on more money, because this is not a legitimate business. this is a toy for somebody. When you look at like his dad is worth $11 billion. Vince McMahon is worth 2.5, right? Tony himself is worth 7. So even Tony is worth 3 times what Vince is. So, sorry, not 3 times. It's 3 times, nearly 3 times what Vince is. So it's not a case of this is a legitimate business. This is a business that has $100 million set aside to lose, right? When we were growing up, we may have collected toys, we may have collected action figures, right? He's buying the real people, like he's collecting the people, like that sounds like a joke, but it's actually I don't think it's too. I mean, for me to go out and spend 20 pounds on an action figure is the same for him to go out and spend $3 million on CM Punk. It's the same parallel. It's exactly the same. Like that to me, 20 pounds to me is like $3 million to him. It doesn't make any difference when you've got $11 billion or $7 billion for Tony and $11 million for his dad. This doesn't mean anything. Like this is all just fun and games. So all of these guys will be on 7-figure salaries. They'll all find their spots on television. They'll all be able to work with who they want to work with. So I don't believe there's any heat there at all. And at the same time, in relation to CM Punk specifically, yeah, you can have issues about Andrade could have issues with Malachi Black coming in, etc., and Christian coming in, and all these guys at this level. You can't turn down Bray Wyatt. He's been the biggest character in the last 2 years on TV. You can't turn that down. You can't turn down Daniel Bryan. Like he's been considered to be one of the top 5 workers in the world. You can't turn down CM Punk because for me, CM Punk is the number 2 name in wrestling in terms of impact that you have. The Rock is always number 1 because he's in Hollywood and he changes things. But I would put Punk above Cena and Brock because we've seen Brock return 8 or 9 times. We know John Cena's coming back. There's no bad blood there. Edge has come back. I don't think we weren't pining for Edge because Edge retired with that injury. Yeah, he was at his peak, but he was injured, right? We weren't, nobody was saying, "Oh, please miraculously get better." CM Punk's situation was always in his own hands, and the thing is that there's more to it than that. There's more layers to it. So let me kind of explain what I mean by that. So. CM Punk was ready to leave this business in 2011 when he said he was done. Okay. He would have accumulated a couple of $1 million in that time. So if you're really, quite tight and you don't want like big things, big cars, big houses, you can live with $2 million and never lift a finger again. Right. I believe, I don't want to do the maths on this here, but I believe that it works out to about 40 grand a year. About 40 grand a year for the rest of your life. If he retired at that point, he could have spent 40,000 a year. Or I think. Don't quote me on that. But roughly, my point is it was enough. But then he got that new deal, that new deal for the guaranteed money of $1.5 million plus merchandising. So he would have been taking home about $3 or $4 million a year during the final 2.5 years of that contract. So that carried his net worth to around about $10 million. At $10 million, he walked out on a new deal that he could have got. Like nobody walks out when you're on top of the company because he was fit, healthy, in his 30s, and he could have wrestled this whole time up until now. So at an average of $3 million a year, right, for 7 years, he walked out on more money than he even has. So this guy walked out on $20+ million that he could have had phoning it in, having a main event spot on the card. Maybe he would have main event at WrestleMania. Maybe he wouldn't. But I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be jobbed out at the level that he was at. But he decided, no, I know what I want. I'm done here. I don't like these people. I don't like this creative. Can you hear me? Yeah. He's like, I don't like these people. I don't like this creative. I don't like this place. I don't like the politics. I don't like anything about this. Like, I'm going to just walk out. Like, I'm going to take the $10 million I have. I'm going to make the choice not to earn the $20 million that I could earn for the next 7 years. And I'm going to just go and sit at home and just chill. And the grievances that he had are the same grievances that we all had in terms of bringing in certain people. At the time, it was going to be Batista to take the spot in the main event at WrestleMania to beat Randy Orton, which CM Punk thought should have been his spot, which eventually ended up being the spot of Daniel Bryan because the fans forced them into it. But after that, after Bryan got injured, we got more company guys. We got more Roman Reigns, constant pushes of Roman Reigns, constant pushes of John Cena, constant relationships with charities and different kinds of like partnerships that the WWE would be. It was heading towards becoming this like commercial entity, which CM Punk didn't want to be involved in. So the shitter that the product got, the more right CM Punk got. He became more and more correct in what he said, and more accurate, and more popular, and more a symbol of the mediocrity while he was sitting at home. And through becoming a symbol of, oh, look, this is why CM Punk left. CM Punk left because he said it was going to get shit, and he's right. And suddenly, the solution to everything not being shit was CM Punk, because when CM Punk came in, he did have a long run as champion, and he was very different to John Cena. He was a different type of character on television during a PG era. So immediately, once you leave and you're sitting at home, people start to pine for your comeback, because you automatically, even though it's not true, I don't think it's true, even though it's not true, you become a symbol of the symbol of the solution to this shit wrestling that you're watching. It's like, Jesus, if CM Punk comes with all his ideologies and all of his like beliefs and the things that he said, automatically wrestling will get better as soon as CM Punk comes back. And also there's this, obviously the other side of it, there's this respect and admiration for guys that walk out on his peak. Yeah, loads of guys have made comebacks. Yeah, sure. Ric Flair's made 100 comebacks. Brock Lesnar comes and goes. Edge made his comeback. Hulk Hogan's made comebacks. Everybody's come back in wrestling, right? Ultimate Warrior, everybody. But everybody came back for more money, and because they couldn't stay away. And they came back like when they were past their best. This guy might be past his best, but he left at his best. He left with all the money on the table. Like, he left on like principle. And I don't want to overplay like the principle thing, because he's coming back now for a shit ton of money, like truckloads of money. He didn't come back and go, you know what? You sold me in this conversation. Like, I'll come back for, what everybody else gets paid. I'll come back for what Moxley gets paid or whatever. No, he's easily the highest paid person in the company. So I don't want to like sort of play up the moral side of it too much, but he still did walk out on a whole load of money. So I think walking out of the absolute peak of your career, there was always this desire for him to come back and do a little bit more. Plus as well, like every year he stayed away, it just became more and more like unbelievable that he was ever going to do it. So that's why I was so like pissy this week, because I think like when people are going there and going, oh, AEW did this and WWE like just came back and they had these 2 returns in their bag, like all of a sudden they had buried it or squashed it in some way. If you think Brock's 8th return since 2012 or Becky Lynch coming back from a baby after a year and a half, if you think these returns are equal to somebody like leaving at their peak and coming back after 7 years, after every building had charted CM Punk, and remember, Adam, right, when they charted CM Punk, it was usually as a rejection to something shit that was on TV, right? They would chant CM Punk when they were bored or when something shitty was going on. Like, it was like they'd shout CM Punk or they would start playing with beach balls, right? It was a symbol of, we don't approve of this. He became the name of something that they wanted. As I said, he became a solution to a problem, which is how shit is wrestling right now. Like, oh, it would be solved by CM Punk. Is he going to come in and solve the shit areas of wrestling? No, he can only do what he can do on screen, and what he needs to do on screen needs to be great. But at the same time, like, if you think the returns of Becky Lynch, John Cena, and Brock Lesnar compared to CM Punk, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you're an absolute moron. Like, you cannot sit there and go, and people will go, oh, it's got more numbers on YouTube and SmackDown's watched by more people and everything. Well, first of all, it's a bigger company and it's been around for ages. Second of all, SmackDown can be accessed by everybody. Third and foremost, and I don't want to sound like Dave Meltzer here, but Monday Night Raw has an audience of guys over 50 that don't even know, that are so in the habit of watching wrestling on Monday. Like me, I'm not 50, but I won't stop watching wrestling on a Monday. Like, Raw is going to have my rating, and I'll sit there and I'll watch my clock and play with my phone, and I will give them that rating. But it doesn't mean that I remember it. I don't remember what happened on Raw right now. And we're recording this on Wednesday. And I watched it. And the reason is because I watched it like this. Right? Like, but they still got my viewership. Like, so that's the difference. I did not watch the CM Punk return in that way. And also the thing is that this is going to be booked in such a way that I believe that AEW are going to have 6 to 12 months of planning here in terms of who he works with, when he works with, and why. Whereas Becky Lynch is apparently a heel. Brock Lesnar is apparently just going to get to this Roman Reigns story on, this week and blow it off in Dubai for this Dubai show. So you're not even going to get this match in America in front of a decent crowd. You're going to get it in front of those, the Saudi who don't even cheer for anything. So who gives a shit, right? And I can say that because that's my dad's religion. So I got free clearance to say it. Plus, there was a whole bunch of I put this Taliban video out this week where they're all like dancing and everything, and people were adamant that I was one of the people in the video. So
there you go.
Yeah. They said it was one of those guys, like it was a joke video. I said, no, this is a real video. It's like of the Taliban dancing in the palace that they've taken over. So yeah, so people thought it was some joke that I was involved with. But getting back to what my point is that, yeah, the booking, I don't trust the booking of WWE. Like if Becky's going to be a heel, that's ridiculous. Plus the thing is that she came in as a replacement for the Sasha Banks storyline, when they thought throughout the week that Sasha Banks was coming back. And there's this other misconception as well. Like, everybody just assumes everything. It's like, oh, ha, 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 like Sasha learned her lesson. She got COVID because she's not vaccinated. No, that's not what happened at all. Like, there's a whole, I don't know if you know this, but do you know that there's a list of, I'll never find it now on my phone because my phone is so full of shit. But let me just try at least. There's a whole list of protocols that the unvaccinated WWE talent need to follow. I don't know if you know about this or not. Yeah, so there's a whole list of like different protocols that the unvaccinated talent need to follow. I'm trying to find the protocols now. I won't look for too long because it'll just be like dead air time. Plus, there's so much shit on my phone, it's impossible to find anything. I'd like to know who I fucking sent this to, though. Because if I could just find the person that I was having this conversation with in the first place, it would be helpful. Oh, here it is. I actually did find it. Hold on. Okay. WWE COVID testing protocol is this, right? If you're vaccinated, you need no daily test requirement. If you're unvaccinated, you need daily testing when you turn up. And that includes like if you're there for a pay-per-view. So if you were there for like Friday to Sunday, for example, it would be every day. I've gone past that one. If you're vaccinated, you're not required to wear a mask at a facility or during travel. If you're unvaccinated, you're required to wear a mask at the facility and during travel. When I say facility, I mean at the building, and I also mean at the hotel. Also, social distancing. No distancing required with other vaccinated individuals. Unvaccinated, which is Sasha Banks, must remain physically distant from others. Travel. Vaccinated, no restriction. Unvaccinated may not leave the hotel. This is the interesting one, and I want people to listen to this. Travel, no restrictions, unvaccinated, may not leave hotel to eat or interact with people outside traveling party. Social life, vaccinated, no restrictions, unvaccinated. This is also important. May not go to bars, clubs, house parties, concerts, etc. This is an actual WWE document. So what happened is Sasha Banks broke the rule about going out to eat. So she went out with, I believe, what I've been told is it was Callisto, or a group of people that Callisto was one of them, and there was somebody within that party that they're saying there's someone within that party that got COVID. That's not true either. The breach was the actual act of breaking WWE vaccinated versus unvaccinated protocol. So this whole thing about she was out with somebody that got tested. She was out with somebody that had COVID. One of the dirt sheets had that. That's not true. The story about her having COVID herself, that's not true either. All this stuff is not true. These guys, they talk shit. Like they think something sounds logical, and then they try and they make it into a story. And sometimes they're correct because the logical thing is correct. In this instance, they've been caught out because what they're saying is not true. What they don't know is what I was emailed is the WWE COVID rules, right? Which I've read out on Russo's show, which was what I just read out on your show. So these are the COVID rules, and she simply got caught out going out for something to eat and breaking the rules of WWE within when you travel with that party. She's not allowed to go by the unvaccinated rules, the vaccinated rules, because she's unvaccinated. So they simply punished her for the weekend where there was a Saturday show where she wasn't allowed to work. She was expected to be back on SmackDown on Friday, which is why they continue to advertise the match. And she no-showed work on Friday, saying that I don't want to be held to these COVID, these unvaccinated rules. I don't want to adhere to this. This is bullshit. Like, I'm allowed to go out and do whatever I want legally. You can't tell me where I can go out to eat and when I can go out to eat and who I can see and whatnot. So I'm not coming in until you loosen up on the rules. So that's when you bring Becky in, who was originally supposed to be at SummerSlam anyway, to confront Charlotte Flair after a title win. They've been building this match up for 2 months. Charlotte's been taking digs at Becky for 2 months. So instead of Becky going up to Charlotte, Becky then comes in and confronts Bianca, and some of these dirt sheet guys are saying that she's a heel. I don't have that information. My information is they're going back to Becky's roots of what she was when she was the man character in the first place, which was a character which acts a certain way, acts like a heel, but they expect her to get cheered. So I believe that's still the expectation. And as for Bianca Belair, everything you've been hearing with EST for the last 2 months, or sorry, it's not been 2 months, 6 weeks. Everything you've been hearing has been coming in through the speakers, because the Thunderdome technology has been carried over to the new Raw and SmackDown set that they built specifically in order to enhance the sound and also to be able to control things so that they could dictate the narrative war. One thing Vince McMahon enjoyed about Thunderdome is being able to decide who the crowd like and who the crowd don't like by himself. And they want to continue to do that. So there have not been genuine EST chants and cheering for Bianca Belair. That has been manipulated. So for them to say Becky is the outright heel, and for them to still try to continue pushing Bianca as the babyface, that for me is absolutely controlling the narrative in a very, very unorganic way, because they've been very much using the sound system to get her over for the last month.
Well, if Sasha Banks really wants to go out to get something to eat, I've got her sausage right here.